Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use the promo code DNVR25. You'll get 25% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. And if you're joining us for the live show on YouTube, which you should always be doing, make sure that you're there on the subscribe and the bell icon and all that good stuff, so you know when we're going live. Good morning to you. Doing a bit of a morning show with some afternoon games coming up. Strava Craft Coffee Hour still in the morning here as we process the previous day's baseball news and look forward to what's up and coming here for your Colorado Rockies. We were going to jump right into all of the All-Star Game uniform reactions but first, Patrick, I don't know if you saw this. Dodgers got no hit last night.
So when are we going to learn about the findings about the Chicago Cubs and all the foreign substances that they used in that game? Because there's no other way that guys could swing and miss and make outs like that.
The only way, man. It's the only way.
I haven't seen any statistics just yet. I need to start doing some digging through the piles, as it were. But how many teams that have won the World Series have been no hit? I'm sure it's happened before, but it's probably extremely rare. Extremely rare.
Yeah, somebody asked me the question today, and I had to double check it, actually. How many times have the Rockies been no hit? Because as everyone remembers, I've predicted that the Rockies were not going to get no hit this year. Still feeling good about that. Despite mush ball and sticky stuff, though, we're maybe getting away from that, all those things, whatever. But yeah, 3. It was the answer, and
that seems low. That kind of seems low. I mean, for a team that just has typically hasn't been successful, right? It's going to happen.
Right. Plenty of times they've been a last place team. Plenty of times where the offense has gone into these huge slumps. We know about the Coors hangover effect, all those kinds of things. You would figure the quality of pitching that they've faced in the division over the years from the Dodgers and the Giants and now the Padres and stuff like that. And so you just go, really, only 3 times, twice in the 90s. Al Leiter and obviously most famously Hideo Nomo pitching the only no-hitter in the history of Coors Field.
Same year. That was the same year. That was 96.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. See that? I didn't. Okay, yeah. And then Clayton Kershaw, we talked about this game with Goodman, through one of the best, just pitched one of the best baseball games you're ever going to see against them. And that was a few years ago, right before this last run. I would guess 14, 13. I didn't look that one up. But that's it. Yeah. So it's weird, man. We're living in this era. So many no-hitters this year. This was a combined no, they still count, especially if you're the Dodgers. If you're the Cubs, the starting pitchers may be like, damn. But if you're the Dodgers, you're like, straight up, you played a baseball game, didn't get a hit. It doesn't, nothing changes from your perspective, right? So, you'll love to see it. You just do. And you're right. It doesn't mean that the Dodgers can't win the World Series or do any of these things. But, we treat some of these teams like uber juggernauts, and it's easy to forget that in baseball on any given night, not only can you just lose because, as Harry Ralston would remind us, that's baseball. But if the other guys just got it going, you can straight up get dominated. You can get historically beat down, even when you're great. Love this game. Love baseball, man.
Coors Field is almost no-hitter proof just because of the size of the outfield.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why, not conversely, because it still ties into the large outfields, why so many cycles have been hit at Coors Field. I think the number's at 19 now.
Sounds about
and
right. Pablo Sandoval hit us for the cycle at Coors Field.
They had the record that they surpassed was Fenway Park, that stadium that's been around for 100 years, that was built before even my grandfather was born. Like, that's how interesting of a place it is to hit at Coors Field. So it's a little no-hitter proof. And with everything with the Coors Field hangover, which has always existed, just wasn't necessarily known about or recognized quite as much, given a name, the finger wasn't put on it. That always existed, and yet all of those teams through the 90s and even early 2000s, they were still able to manage to get away with, essentially one no-hitter the one against Al Leiter in Florida, and then more recently the one against Kershaw. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, to only
You
have
wouldn't have guessed. You
one-
wouldn't guess it was more than that,
I
right?
would even I literally
Maybe 6. Not a ton, not
No,
one every year, but 6 is a good number.
I would have put the over under around 5. Yeah. It just, and again, having watched this team and researched them and worked on them now for 7 years and all the years before that, I would have thought there'd have been a few more. To have there only be one in the post-Humidor era is another interesting thing as well. To really, because when you're looking back at Leiter and Nomo, that's essentially now we're talking about a different lifetime of baseball. That was just a different thing. So Kershaw got them in the what we would call the modern era, right? And that's it. That's kind of funny to me. So yeah, it's one of those things. Again, I do think, you know, if you polled the average baseball fan and asked them, not Rockies fans, have the Colorado Rockies ever lost 100 games? Most of them would say, yeah, probably. You know, have they finished in last place more often than not in the last 10 years? People go, yeah, probably. You know, have they been no hit 5 or more times in their franchise history? Yeah, probably. And just none of those things are true. It just feels like they should be.
Right. Yeah, they're on the precipice. If you throw in one hitters, there's actually been a lot of, you know,
I was going to say, how many
against
friends
them
have they scraped out of there with the one hit in a shutout where they got truly dominated? But Juan Pierre or Jeff Baker or Walker or Helton or whoever just threw out a blooper in the left, and so doesn't count.
Yeah. It's interesting to wake up and see that a combined no hitter again. LA really reeling right now after getting swept
Right.
Against the Padres in San Diego. Those games were exciting. I don't think they got as much attention as the first 2 series they had against each other in April. I think it still got a lot of attention, and I did make sure I tuned into the Wednesday night game, and it was just so electric there in San Diego that, you know, again, put aside fandom and all that stuff. You just go, this is a baseball crowd. This is it. This is passion. This is a community. This is society. And for that reason, it was great. And again, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So go Padres for a brief period of time, in a sense, right?
I thought it was funny. I wanted to make a joke with our guy Manny Randhawa, but I was worried it would not have been taken in the best, not by him, but by
Right.
other people, because he had said something about what you were just talking about, the drama and the excitement and the crowd energy and the good games and the closeness between the Padres and the Dodgers. And I want to say, yeah, man, just an absolutely epic battle between a second and third place team, hoping they can grab one of those wild card spots.
That's good, though. That's good. See, you know, that's why you tune into the podcast, because not all the best content's on Twitter.
If I make that joke on Twitter, though, then the Giants go on a 15-game losing streak.
And honestly, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I'd have been like, I think I know why you're saying that. You got to hear the inflection in the voice. You got to see the smile. That's pretty funny. I also liked the fact that the San Diego Public Library, some librarians made a little video of them standing, I think, on the balcony. Beautiful library, by the way. In fact, I think that's where the entirety of the Sabre, that's like the Sabre Library. Like, that's like the official place that you would go. Yeah, so there's been a lot of stuff, baseball artifacts that's been donated there. And, you know, showed one of the librarians, like, with a little dustpan sweeping up, you know, throwing some shade at the Dodgers. And then, of course, the LA Library throws shade about, like, yeah, you do know that we are the reigning World Series champs. So, you know, have your fun. I was like, okay, this is something. If you've got librarians, you know, chipping away at each other like that, I can get behind that.
Totally. I love all of it. I am just straight up going to laugh my ass off if the national media and the local media and everyone's media has been focused on Dodgers and Padres since months before the season even started, going back to midway through last year, and the Giants end up being the team that wins the division. I will laugh forever. I will enjoy that very much. So
that would be very poetic. That would be, you almost love to see it, because then
very baseball.
And in a way, you know, it could be. I don't think it's what's best for the game, and not for the game. I should just say MLB. Like, what does MLB want? I don't think MLB wants the Dodgers and the Padres to play each other in the NL wildcard game. Save that for the NL Championship Series. Yeah. But that would also be, you know, that still works. That still plays like, wow, this winner take all game. So you still get that. And then at the same time, the Giants still get to, go ahead and they win the division. So I don't know that's necessarily having your cake and eat it too, but you do get that big matchup for 24 hours. It is what it is. You'd rather than maybe meet somewhere else or at least have a full series. But as it were, that would be almost bittersweet, I think, for Rockies fans. I think you could get behind that and go, all right, fine, Giants, go ahead, sneak in there, win the West, and have those other two teams who, spend off season, making all kinds of moves and spending all kind of money on the Bowers, Darvish, Musgrove, all of that.
How many
and yet,
combined millions were spent between those two teams for it to all come down to one game between the two of them? It would be amazing. It would be amazing. And like you said, another, just reminder that baseball, man, it just, it's like baseball. My MLB might think it's best if the Dodgers and Padres play each other in the NLCS, but I think it's better for the game of baseball, for the sport, for all sports in general, when fewer people feel like they've got no chance on day one of the season. I think this kills the NBA, where, the day the season starts, you look at 6 teams, you're like, those are the 6 teams that can win it. Everybody else, you're there to be fodder this year, and maybe be a nice story if everything goes your way. And in baseball, it's never quite been that way. You've always had the Nationals and the Giants 3 times winning the World Series when they weren't the best team in baseball. The Royals obviously doing it. You've always had that. But more and more lately, not necessarily in how it's played out, but I feel like in the media, people, especially with the Dodgers now having won the division so many years in a row, now that they did get their World Series, it feels like, these are the teams. Coming into this year, I felt like there was maybe as much certainty as there's ever been in baseball about who were the good teams and who weren't. And I don't think that's good for baseball. So I think the way it's played out with the Yankees struggling, the Dodgers struggling, and the Braves not running away with anything, it's been fantastic for all those other fan bases to go, Giants fans have got to be stoked, man.
Yeah, I think tanking, has something to do with that, where you're going to have, roughly 4 teams out of the mix. Okay, so now you're left with 26. You got your upper echelon teams. But I think, as you said, there was something that had come out a good 5-6 years ago that never really caught on. In the NFL, they said there's so much parity, where from one year to the next, a team could really almost come out of nowhere, maybe not be a juggernaut, but can make the playoffs. There's parity, right? You don't have to tank where it's going to take so many years to rebuild. It could be a 2-year process and you're on top.
Right.
And the term I think that was floated was compression. There's a lot of compression where even if you take some of the upper tier level teams, when you look at the second tier teams, they're really not that far behind. And with the trade, deadline that we have in MLB, you make the right acquisition, then all of a sudden it's balanced, it's level. And again, we see with the Yankees, where they're a team that everyone said, okay, well, they seem like they're very much a lock, and they're struggling right now. So, and even the Rockies, who's a team that there hasn't been very many years where they've been picked to win the West, right? And we just came off of a spell in which in 2019 there were some folks that would have said, you know what? It's not too crazy for the Rockies to win the West. And you'd say, yeah, it's not too crazy. But regardless, how many times do Rockies fans go into the month of July and even mid to late June and go, hey, we're 4 or 5 games out of the wild card, right? Maybe this team doesn't look like world beaters, but we're in this thing. And I think you're right. That's the thing that baseball provides that all of the other sports just don't, where you already know if you have or don't have something. Whereas because baseball is such a long season, you can have those lulls. You can have that bad spell. You played poorly for 3 weeks in the NFL, you're 0-3, and that's a huge chunk of your season, right? That's almost 20%.
Right.
Whereas 3 weeks in baseball, you can kind of wash that out, and that's part of it. You don't need
we got to get these
wholesale changes. We got to change our quarterback. Like, we got to change so much. We got to change the core of our team. So it does offer a lot more hope. And again, that's why we love this game so much.
Yeah. It's it'll be fascinating with the next CBA to see if they can create a little more, as you called it, compression. That'll be fascinating for sure. Well, let's get into one of our other major topics of the day. Speaking of what Major League Baseball is and isn't doing particularly well, I am not toasting my Breck Brew or my Strava Craft coffee or my Breck Celsius on this day. I cannot in good conscience toast or sip in celebration. We sip in befuddlement and bemusement, but we do sip. It's a little early in the day, so still got the Strava Craft coffee. Get your Breck brews and your Breck Seltzies in your 15-can samplers out there at your local King Soopers or liquor store. And of course, you get a bigger one down at the DNVR bar when you become a member of the family, which you should do at thednvr.com today for all the written content, constant discounts, access to the Discord channel, a free shirt from the DNVR Locker, and a free holistic stick from our friends at Holistic Wellness. Check them out today at HOLISTIK wellness.com and use promo code DNVR30 to get 30% off once we've sent you that free CBD stick. But do become a member of the family today. We would very much like to have you around. It's fun. So that we can all react to things like this, Patrick, as we all saw the Major League Baseball. Oh no, we're back to that. The MLB announced their the All-Star uniforms, and yeesh.
Wow.
I am one of the least design savvy people you're likely to meet. I couldn't design a beige wall. You know what I mean? Like but even I looked at this and went, what in the hell is happening here?
I don't necessarily know where to begin with this. It's maybe here's something right away off the bat that I think we can. Well, I think we all agree on these are awful, but they're going to be wearing this in the game. That might be the biggest issue.
Sure, right?
And not even that it's this particular jersey and cap, but that the players who since 1933, since the first ever All-Star game, they've always worn their jersey, the home league, where they're whites, and then
right.
the visiting team wears their grays, and that's just how it's always been. That's a great way of marketing the game as well. You turn this game on, and it's one of the reasons why MLB has one player representing every single team, so that fans feel like they're represented. Now, if someone in Pittsburgh, let's say, right, is trying to get into baseball or is only roughly a baseball fan, they're going to go, well, where's our guy? He might be out there. Adam Frazier might be out at second base. You're not going to know it because they have to wear the All-Star jersey and not their own. And that's the biggest diversion from history that I'm seeing, and that's the worst part of this whole thing.
That's been the case for several years now, though, and it's been
not during the game.
Sadly, I mean, is that they've actually, because they wore those ugly ass Padres ones during the game. They wore those ugly.
They wear it during like home run derby sometimes, and they don't wear it during the game. They've never. You see them. It's plastered all over the weekend, no doubt about it. It's everywhere. But when they actually play the game,
they really didn't
just
wear those
nice and crisp.
Ones? Huh.
Nope. Which I do think were ugly. I'm not a big fan of that Padres.
I mean, there's a bunch of ugly ones
that's
throughout
ugly.
history. And this,
but guess what? It represented the San Diego Padres. So you go, cool, fine. And this just
that's a whole other issue. The colors being wrong has entirely to do with the pandemic and the game being switched, and there not being enough time to switch the colors around, and
which is still a big problem. It's still, that's part of why it's so ugly, right?
It's why it's ugly. But as far as it being a big problem in terms of, there was nothing they could do about that, unfortunately.
I don't know that that's true. I mean, again, financially, they would have probably taken a very big hit. Right from doing that, but that's much better than.
I mean, that's a whole lot of waste of materials and a whole lot of extra money just to make uniforms.
Just to put your product on the biggest, most important game that you have in the summer. I mean, again, it's cost analysis again, and I understand. I understand that, but I think that's a major misstep for how much money. Drew, we know that, and every sport does this. When it comes to the championship game, they make 2 jerseys, right? Or they make 2 T-shirts. They make, hey, congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers 2020 World Series champs. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Rays, the 2020 champ. And that's creating waste. So that's not something that organizations have a problem with. It's just cost of doing business, right?
Just because some people are okay with a whole bunch of waste in some instances and not others doesn't mean that I have to be okay with it. I don't think that it was there was no saving these. There was no like, oh, well, if they just made the colors better, then like the amount of money waste and material and time and whatever to do all of that to make these,
I agree,
marginally better. Just meh. I don't look. They're ugly as hell. I'm not.
Look, that's the cost of doing business, and I agree with you. And that's its own separate thing. But again, MLB and NFL and NHL, all that. That's part of the business model. And I think it would have been better to donate that, do whatever you will with it, even save it for Atlanta, because now, this is one of the things that I'll say. I know from an inside source that the Rockies were in negotiations with MLB to host in 2024. It was right around the corner for them. And so now that spot's opened up, I'm sure Atlanta will probably take that spot in 2024. Again, granted, they would have to announce that next year, and that's not a great look in light of everything. But, MLB doesn't necessarily seem to have a problem with those kind of things to a degree. So save them, whatever it will. Again, that's a separate topic.
Undercutting of.
No, I agree.
Point.
But that wouldn't really shock me. Yeah, no, exactly right.
But it would be really bad.
Save these, donate them, whatever. The bottom line is these are the jerseys that they're going to be wearing at Colorado's, at your All-Star Game for Rockies fans, and they do not represent the Rockies in any capacity. And they're almost growing on me now. Now that I've seen them, I'm like, I guess I'm just accepting it. I don't know, man. Again, even look at the American League one. The one we got up on screen here is Tampa Bay. And the TV logo is in gold, not silver for the Rockies. It's in gold. That's with the little Hawaiian trim that they got around. That's like, it almost wants to be camouflage, but it's more of a Hawaiian type style. I don't know if you saw the Blue Jays one also has the American flag on the sleeve, even though they're a Canadian team, and that's typically not how they go about that. That's weird.
That was like, that's again, like there's so many things that are bad about these uniforms that, again, when people start focusing on any one element of it, I just get a little like, I've even seen some of the redesigns. Our guy, Nathaniel Sunshine, did a pretty fantastic one where he made the colors work, which again is much easier to do in Photoshop than when you actually have to order tens of millions of bits of product. But again, it's like, even those, I was like, you made this less abhorrent. Like it's I could maybe like accept it a little bit more now, but they're still awful. They've got writing on top of writing. They've got letters on top of letters. They've got like, there's nothing about this. Some people have said, they don't hate the hats. I don't really hate the hats either. It's pretty hard to mess up a baseball hat.
Yeah, I would agree. The hat, I mean, I'm not crazy about the red. And again, you go, this is supposed to be about the Rockies. Yeah, there's purple in there with the star behind it. So that's not atrocious. It's just a little confusing. Like if the jersey was better, like if they had gotten the jersey right, it's purple or whatever, you go, oh, the red, well, I guess it pops more on it. And you'd go, that sucks a little bit, but you still might go and get one. But the hat coupled with the jersey, it's a huge miss. And it's also weird too with, some of the jerseys, and we got some up here on the screen for those that are watching live on YouTube, or even you can go ahead and, if you're listening to this as a podcast, go on to our DNVR Sports channel to check it out. And you can see like Cleveland's logo, the solid C, it's all shaded in red. And then the Brewers just has the outline in red, and the majority of it is white.
The Brewers is the only one that looks good here because it's not this bright red in the middle of it.
Kind of, yeah. In a weird way, I'd be in favor of that. Like this,
the A's
like
doesn't look
clear.
too bad.
No,
Seattle's looks okay, but the bright red ones that are popping here, did they try to put a little bit of the yellow in? The Rockies one just looks funky as hell because
and it's not, there's almost like not any uniformity. Like if you look at the Angels, how it has the shading, and then again the Brewers is almost just the outline, and then the Rockies one has again similar kind of like shading, and it's true to the logo, but that's not what we've typically seen with all-star hats. And again, maybe there are times in which logos and color schemes and stuff like that shift, and the start of the shift or trends, right? You go, I don't know that I like this. This is weird. And then it starts something new. There's a new progression. But with the amount of timing or amount of time that it took to plan all this, typically it's 2 years, and they compress this down so much. You go, yeah, this isn't like the start of a new trend. This is just a merchandise dump. Here's all the stuff. They got the logo right. The logo, they crushed it, right?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't necessarily say it's like perfect. Like, oh my God, it's my favorite logo of all time. But then again, you give them 2 years, would they have done that? No, not necessarily. So that would be nitpicking. So I would have to say home run, A+ on the actual logo itself.
Agreed.
In my opinion,
yeah. I thought when they unveiled that, and again, to near universal praise, people were like, "This looks dope. We're stoked on this. This looks awesome." Had all the purple, all the mountains, all the stuff that you want to see. Like I said, I'm one of those people that tends to resign myself to, well, that was either not really possible or highly improbable, highly unlikely. Would have taken, like, the amount of work it would have taken to get the color scheme right on these and money, like, versus the amount of difference it would have made in how I feel about them. It's like, I just don't think it's worth it. So that's why I'm just like, well, this sucks. But
how do you know that? How do you know how much difference it would have made? Like,
again, I'm not the design guy. I can't say for sure, but I've seen several mock-ups that looked much better, including, like I said, our guy Nathaniel Sunshine, and I still thought, lipstick on a pig, man. You made it better.
That's done in Photoshop. Like, so what are some of the ideas that you've seen or you had on your own of like what could they have done differently? Like, again, you get 2 years out.
Redesign like the ones they had before. There's a million things they could have done, but that again,
sleeveless. Give us a sleeveless. There's never been a sleeveless All-Star jersey. That would have been amazing.
As somebody who has often been in a situation in life where I've said, hey, that looks like a tough situation over there, I volunteer to help out, even though I don't have absolutely everything necessary going on right now. I'm just going to be there and do what I can. It's just one of those things. Like the Rockies are stepping in. We've talked about this before. Will they get another All-Star game sometime in the near future as a trade-off? You're certain of that? You're absolutely, because I've heard plenty of rumors that they actually will. So
I don't think so. I was that part of my hope, and I hope I'm wrong. I absolutely hope I'm wrong. I would have liked to have heard some rumblings, and I think that would have come out that part of the negotiation would have been, look, MLB, instead of just, this isn't a gift for us. We're helping you out too. We're both benefiting, but we're helping you out. So
the Rockies are helping out Major League Baseball way more than Major League Baseball is helping out the Colorado Rockies.
Well, that isn't necessarily true, but that is how it should have been broached in the negotiations, right? Like MLB,
that's not true.
Well, I think the Monforts stand to gain a lot from everything that goes into this All-Star game from the PR standpoint and whatnot, versus waiting 3 more years. Like, hey, shoot, we might need this more now than it's like saying give me 75 cents today rather than giving me $1 tomorrow, because I could really use that 75 cents, even though that $1 is more and would be better. But I think that the Rockies could have come to the negotiating table. And again, I hope I'm wrong, and maybe we'll see this, but I think the information would have come out. They could have, had their cake and eat it too and said, look, we are going to help you out. No, don't talk to us about our situation and the loss of money that we had in 2020 and the PR. Don't talk to us about that. We are here to help you, MLB. And
this is exactly what happened. This is exactly what happened so far. So far, this is the negotiation that took place. What was the next?
I don't know that that's true.
I do. So I've been told by
what else can you tell us from those negotiations? Can you go ahead and tell us what else do we know from those negotiations?
I basically the rest of what you were just going to say. And then
you don't know what I was.
What I don't know is what the end of the negotiation was. That's all I don't know, is whether or not they got what they wanted.
Yeah, and so
that was the negotiation. So, for you to just sit there and say this absolutely did not happen.
No, I'm saying I think it didn't happen because we would have heard the last part. We would have heard that the Rockies are also going to host in 8 or 10 years time. I think that was information that would have come out. Everything has come out. There's no such thing as a secret in today's day and age. So again, I just would have hoped that I hope I'm wrong.
Like
I don't know.
Weeks ago, when you were absolutely sure the Rockies weren't going to do Fan Fest, man, it's just come on.
No, I was very much worried that they weren't going to do that.
Right.
And they proved me wrong, and I'm very happy about that. Right. And from all accounts, it does seem like it is going to be a pretty solid event. Now I'll be one of the first ones through the doors to check that out on July 9th, and I do have some expectations, but the fact that it even exists, I'm very happy with. I'm very happy with that. And the tickets were free. Again, I don't know how hard it's been for fans to be able to get that. FanFest is a huge element of the All-Star Game. So the fact that they're having it is a big piece of part of what I was worried about. So I'm very glad that came across, right? At the time in which they got the All-Star Game, it seemed like that wasn't going to be the case, which is what my point was.
And that they were bad negotiators for not getting it, and that they were bad negotiators for having got the All-Star Game when they weren't going to be able to get this stuff. And again, I'm telling you, it's like you can keep hitting the Rockies all day for being bad negotiators when you have no actual information for what they did or did not negotiate.
Right.
But once the information,
and I think the reverse is true.
It's your credit. You said, the Fan Fest, whatever.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people don't go back and do the thing and say,
that's true.
I hammered the Rockies forever saying they were never going to do this thing, or they were definitely going to do this thing. And then when it didn't occur.
That's true. And conversely, defense of the organization is one of those things that if they get something wrong, they do need to be criticized for that. And so
everyone criticizes them for it. There's nobody who fails to criticize the
organization. No, not to criticize. I mean, the outward defense of the organization would be one of those things that, again, we typically don't see people defending the organization. I was
going to say, who does that other than me? Who actually
that's ultimately my point is that, again, so I'm not making a point about how the Rockies suck. What I'm saying is I have worry that things could be done better. And again, if that's our job, which I believe it is to just take in information and to synthesize it and say, well, perhaps if this happened, this would go down. I'm not saying anything definitively. We're trying to have a conversation. So what I ultimately, the point I was trying to make was, I would have loved if, and I could be wrong, maybe they did do this, but it remains to be seen. They said, look, MLB, don't talk about our business. Don't talk about what's going on behind our closed doors. We are here to help you out. And as such, since we're about to get the full scale, non-pandemic All-Star Game in 2024, we're going to come in and help you out, move our clock up to 10 years from now, or even 8 years from now, and acknowledge that. And the other 29 teams maybe would have to sign off about that. And maybe that was a hurdle. And it was like, well, look, you can either have it in 2021 or 2024, and that's it. That's the deal. I would have liked to have thought the Rockies could have gotten something more out of it than just the All-Star Game. And again, we might find that out, but I tend to say
we'll learn that
when that probably just is what it is. Right.
We'll learn when the information comes out, and I'm not going to hammer them without any information that's what's gone on here.
And I don't feel that I am hammering. I'm throwing out this idea that perhaps things could have been worked a little bit differently. But going back to the uniforms, what's a change that you saw that you would have liked to see? I mean, would you have liked to just seen more purple so that maybe other team fan bases would hate it, but you go, hey, right. I don't care. This is our All-Star Game. It represents us. We like it.
Yeah, again, I'm not the design guy. I'm not the guy that gets up in arms over colors. I just thought they looked ugly. They need to represent the Rockies, and they need to have the right colors. Like I was listening into TDSP the other day, and they were talking about uniforms. And Ali,
great episode,
really, really hates the red, Denver Nuggets uniforms that they rolled out last year. Not because they look bad, but because they don't represent the Nuggets. So, like, I get that that's a perspective that people have, and I'm totally down with it. I thought the unis looked dope. I thought they were awesome. I thought they looked good. I wanted one. You know, and I get that the Nuggets don't normally wear red. And so, like, okay. Like, you know, again, and I've always thought it was cool that the Rockies having purple kind of set them apart a little bit. I've always thought that was interesting. There was that pitcher back in the day, I want to say Chen Wen-sao, who like straight up said, like, I chose the Colorado Rockies because they wear purple. Like, fair enough. Okay.
All right, we'll take it.
You're down. But his career didn't end up being what it was supposed to be, but oh well.
That's what you get for a pitcher who picks his team based on colors. But anyway.
Should have been a sign, maybe. But you know, yeah, I've seen like the ones they've done before with like green and purple, the old All-Star Game jerseys. Those look fine to me. Yeah, I'd like to see more representation, I guess. But again, I'm really not the guy you go to for which of these designs is better. It's almost like the most amateurish of baseball scouts or something like that, right? Like I could tell you who are the guys who were 20s and who are the guys who were 80s when it comes to design. I could tell you this is a 20. This All-Star Game jersey sucks.
Yeah.
And then there are some where you see like the White Sox unveil their it's not the futures. What do they call them? Those
City Connect?
City Connects. Mm-hmm. And then I can go
amazing.
Fire. Dope. Yeah. I don't need to have a single idea about design in my head to know those are awesome. And then stuff in between, you know, people like the Cardinals and Dodgers have the best uniforms in baseball. I'm like, I like the A's and the Mariners, dude. I don't know. So, you know,
I think the thing that is frustrating is, and I haven't seen this that much, is just the representation of the Rockies, you know, because if you go and look at all the other All-Star Game, you know, batting practice warm-ups and stuff like that, they represent the city, you know, right? They represent that team, and the cap's got a little bit of purple on it. So, I mean, I guess there's that, but I think that's the most disappointing part for fans is they don't have that thing, and they're left out. Like Colorado is left out once again.
I was going to say that's all it is I've just become numb to that, especially when it comes to the All-Star Game. Rockies don't get voted into the All-Star Game, first of all, ever. Like, unless they've got super duper stars, that's basically it. Then, you know, we've talked about they start, but there's always just the one guy. It's been Nolan or whomever throughout. Everyone listening to this knows exactly the next thing I'm going to say, which is when your guy is batting during the All-Star Game, there are only two conversations that are allowed to happen. One, Coors Field, kill yourself. It's just the worst. And two, anything and everything else. Whoever the bigger star is that year, whatever the bigger story is that year, they will literally talk through all of Brad Hopp's at bat or all of DJ LeMahieu's one at bat of the All-Star Game with anything and everything else. And your guy, so it's just like, other than Ubaldo starting the game, that was probably the only time I feel like Rockies fans felt like they were hugely included in a part of the festivities. And even like Charlie getting jobbed in the home run derby on distance. Like that's the like on a weird measurement of distance, you know, the kind of, so maybe that's part of what it is, that this just seems par for the course of like, well, of course the Rockies don't, and Rockies fans don't get a special thing. We never do. We're always left out. We're all, you know, it's like, it's part of it. But again, I do feel, however else we can dive into the minutia of it, I personally feel fine with it, because it's like, no, we are doing Major League Baseball a favor and everyone else a favor. And the bigger issue here still was the reason that the game got moved in the first place. And the fact that it's coming on the heels of a pandemic put everybody in a tight spot. And for me, you know, when everyone's in a tight spot, there are two things that you can do. Pull up your pants, do everything you can to help, dive in and have a great attitude about making a bad situation better. Or you can whine and bitch and moan about everything that isn't working how it's supposed to or how it normally does and how it isn't. And as ugly and terrible as these uniforms are, as much as it sucks that Rockies fans aren't going to have special, and hopefully they release some other kind of paraphernalia, some shirts, something that Rockies fans can have. Because I agree, this is a problem and it sucks. And it's just yet one more in a long thing of categories of Rockies fans feeling left out, feeling like they don't belong in Major League Baseball, and feeling like Major League Baseball doesn't feel like they belong.
Or that they're being taken advantage of, right? MLB is like, hey, we're just going to kind of swoop in and we're going to use you as our platform to help save the day, and we're going to recycle these jerseys from Atlanta, which almost have the exact same color scheme, and we're going to go ahead and use your stadium. Like, yeah, that sucks.
It sucks. But to conclude the analogy, people used to ask me that all the time in high school and college. Drew, doesn't it bother you? You're being taken advantage of, that you keep forgiving these people, that you keep just saying, no, it's fine. Everyone, use my house, use my facilities, do this. I'll drive you around wherever. I'll drive you an hour out of my way, even though, doesn't it bother you that they're taking advantage of you? No, I was still doing the right thing, and I'd do it all over again. So, you know what? It's, yeah. It all depends on what you care most about ultimately. And like I said, the future is wide open for any number of ways that the Rockies could get another shot at better paraphernalia. But if this is ultimately the worst thing about having moved the All-Star Game last minute, if we do get a full rockin' badass fan fest, if we do get the full rockin' badass home run derby, and I don't know any of the people playing in the celebrity softball game except Miz.
Noah Beck? You're not a big Noah Beck fan? Come on, man. You don't keep up on your TikTokers?
Sorry. I'm all out.
Man, step your game up.
If the weekend, if there's sellout crowds and the fans and the fan fest and all the things, and there really is, both an examination of what the Colorado Rockies franchise could and should be, has been in the past, some of the celebration, but also how they've royally screwed things up right now, how they need to be in a very real transition. They shine the light on all of that stuff, all the good that I think. And then, of course, the things you get for the community. The Rockies don't make any money off of this, by the way, but the community does. Everybody around them is going to make money. So if all those things go off, and the only really terrible thing about them having last minute moved this from Atlanta for a very good purpose is crap unis, you'll take it. But boy, are they bad.
They're very bad.
How is it? There was somebody who sat in the room who knew these were going to be released like 24 hours, 36 hours ahead of time. Someone who I'm sure just pleaded, please don't release these to the public. Can you imagine the fear and dread knowing that it was about to? It's so bad.
I want to talk about nice uniforms.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about some pretty ones for just a second, but put a big old smile on my face. From Green Mountain Dental, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's enough of a reward alone just to get a really nice smile from Green Mountain Dental. But I hear they give you more than just that. Is that true?
They hook you up with a free Sonicare toothbrush when you schedule your cleaning, x-ray, and exam today. And they take care of you like family. They treat you well. They just make it like, I hate going to the dentist, and they make it fun. They make it not horrifying. So check them out today, greenmountaindentalgroup.com. And also, you're going to need them if you're eating as much Hassel Cattle Company Wagyu beef as I am. Can be a little bit tough on the teeth, so get your teeth taken care of at Green Mountain Dental. But do get your Hassel Cattle Company Wagyu beef. It could change your life. It's absolutely delicious, as good as any beef you've ever tasted in your life. It's non-antibiotics and hormones and all that garbage that they can pump into the animals. It gets into your body, and it's really gross. It's bad for them. It's bad for you. It's bad for the environment. Avoid all that stuff. It's even worse for your wallet because they're charging you out the wazoo for that grocery store beef. Never buy beef from the grocery store again. Go to HassellCattleCompany.com. It's HASSELL cattlecompany.com. Use promo code DNVR10. You'll get 10% off your entire purchase. And if you get over $200, they'll hook you up with some free shipping, whether you're getting that ground beef, ground chuck, the beef bacon, which is absolutely life-altering, plenty of steaks. They've got promos all the time. Check to see what they've got on sale. I highly recommend, as you're filling out your cart, they'll just throw promotional deals at you. We got some roasts de-thawing right now. Gonna have crock pot roast this evening. It is delicious. DNVR 10 does get you 10% off at HassellCattleCompany.com.
All right. Well, this week is the College World Series. This is where the MLB draft was supposed to take place last year, when they decided to change things around a little bit and say, hey, let's put the future of Major League Baseball on display. Let's get people excited for these draft picks that, you're going to have to wait 3, 4, 5 years to get to know. But nevertheless, we want you to know them ahead of time. And then the pandemic hit, and we know how that went down. And then they decided to move the draft to the All-Star Game weekend, which is another thing we didn't discuss, which is pretty cool for fans out there. I'm not sure if they've started selling tickets yet. I think it'll be at the Belco Theater right there at the convention center. But that would be great if fans were allowed to go in there. It's the first time MLB draft is actually going to be at the All-Star Game. That's exciting.
I wonder if fans, I'd be stoked. I wonder how people feel about going to the draft, right? We know, like, obviously it become kind of a thing in the NBA in New York, and all the Knicks fans booing David Stern every time, or Adam Silver every time they came out, just kind of and booing whoever the Knicks took regardless. You know, so,
and the Jets pick. Yeah.
So like, the baseball draft has never really been that kind of event, but you and I have always talked about how, despite the fact that there's so many rounds, it needs to be more of one.
Yeah.
Another thing that Major League Baseball needs to do better of marketing itself. And so I hope fans are allowed in, but I hope there's something fun for fans to do there rather than just sit for 3 hours as people call names.
Yeah, they the draft wasn't even televised up through a certain point where people were just getting phone calls, and Baseball America, who covers the draft and college baseball and amateur ranks and minor league baseball as well, they would basically get faxes about who was drafted, and they'd be on these phone calls hearing about, because it was like something that no one cared about. It was so behind the scenes. So then it became a televised event, I think around 07, 08. And now they're trying to make it this big thing. But last year was going to be at the College World Series. That is going on right now. And some of the college uniforms they make some serious advancements. When we see it in college football, I think, to a degree. And so there's some real good ones. Vanderbilt is still alive. I think they have quite possibly the best one there. You see Kumar Rocker, who may even go 1 overall in this year's draft, was actually selected by the Rockies a couple years ago out of high school. Granted, it was done like in the 36th round, and was just kind of done as a flyer. Like, look, we don't have anybody else to pick. We might as well select maybe the best high school pitcher available, even though we know he's going to go to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
But it's a fun little footnote to think about. And so these,
let him know you're interested. You never know. Let's fall to 8. He probably won't. I saw him at 6th in a recent mock draft, though, and that was close enough for me to get excited.
Oh man, if he falls, I think that would be great. But these are similar to, like you mentioned before, those White Sox City Connect uniforms. And you say, oh wow, that's fantastic. The Vanderbilt uniforms look like those White Sox unis. No, it's the other way around. Vanderbilt was the first with these this like pajama style where they're black with white pinstripes. Vanderbilt across the chest with the gold outline, the gold numbers on the back. I think this is like 10 out of 10. What would you rate this bad boy, Drew?
Yeah, again, like you said, the White Sox one immediately spoke to me. This does as well. I'm a sucker for pinstripes. The black on white looks great. I bumped a little bit on the gold for just a second, and I'm not entirely sure why. There's the way the pinstripes meet up with the lettering, it gets a little jumbled in there.
A little bit. I see what, yeah.
Again, this is me reaching for what I heard Eric talk about. But yeah, no, these are great. Like I would feel awesome suiting up in this and hitting the baseball diamond. You
might not feel awesome suiting up in this in the summertime, but thankfully Vanderbilt, down there in Tennessee, their season will end in Tennessee and SEC play right as summer starts. So it's not too bad and not too hot. From an overall standpoint, I think University of Tennessee has the best uniforms. They've got an all orange one that says Vols across the chest. That looks fantastic. Their home whites are great with the bright orange cap.
Yeah,
which stands out. They pop, right? They look great. But I think, and this might be their more controversial one, but again, I like what they're doing as far as trying to advance the color palette a little bit and try to do some different things and go outside the box, similar to what minor league teams do a little bit. Their road uniforms, Drew, kind of a graphite color, right? A dark gray, if you will, with an orange Tennessee and the orange batting helmets. Gray or graphite cap with an orange brim. What's your take on this guy?
Yeah, this is interesting. I like it, but I think it's it's built like it looks like something you'd make in a video game in a good way. When people say that sometimes, a lot of times we go, "This is very video gamey," and they mean that as a put down. I mean it as it also kind of looks like a race car driving team a little bit for some reason to me. But yeah, there's something about that gray that is speaking to me. That's very cool. It's very calming. It's very solid. I like it. Yeah, I like these.
It is. It's fantastic. And University of Virginia also has that orange in there. I believe they've already been bounced. We're down to the Final Four: NC State, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, and Texas. And
you could do some Rockies unis just like this with that same kind of deep gray, sort of metallic gray, and then instead of the orange, you've just got their purple, right? Colorado.
That wouldn't be bad.
With the number underneath. I think that could look cool. Because, yeah, we're just so used to seeing the drab gray in baseball, which I'm fine with, right? It goes back forever. The gray, the kind of muted gray tone. Like, I love it.
Muted, yeah.
It is what it is. But that gray right there was just, it was speaking to me.
and to kind of piggyback on that, as I said, they're all orange, jersey top that just says Vols on it, for short for volunteers. Give us a Rockies one that just says Rocks across it, and like kind of cursive script that's just like real fun. Why not? Like, eventually, I think we'll get down the line. I think that's one thing that MLB wants to do with their merchandising. We're seeing it already with the City Connect uniforms. Like, hey, sorry Rockies and sorry Yankees, you're gonna have to come up with a lot more merchandise. I mean, even to think about with the Players Weekend, how they did that. In fact, in 2019, there was either you were all white if you were home, and then you were all black if you were the road team. And the Dodgers even said, no thanks. Can we at least have one game where we just wear our regular Dodgers? And MLB was like, no. You can't do that. No. So that could be a good thing, kind of being forced into doing something like that. But as I said, Texas is still available, and they do have a great uniform, the Longhorns. They've got their, I'm not sure, it's almost like a Sedona type orange or a brown. It's kind of like a steer.
Sure, I guess that would make sense.
Bull, kind of like that bull color.
A longhorn, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of get the idea there a little bit. Again, when you see the T on the cap, and from a distance, you might even say like, "Oh, is this University of Tennessee also, or could this also be Virginia?" Again,
brown or orange, yeah.
Sure, with all those colors. But the real reason bringing up the Longhorns is because they are coached by Mr. Troy Tulowitzki, who is just wonderful seeing him in a dugout. You could see this picture and go, what's the big deal with these uniforms? Why would I be looking at that? That would be this face right here.
Yeah.
The coach that is making $0 on the payroll.
Love it.
And he has navigated his team to a Final Four finish so far in the College World Series. So if you're looking for a team to root for there in Omaha this weekend, it could be Triple T, Troy Tulowitzki, Texas. It's a great fit.
And my father would be very upset with me for rooting for a Texas team, but I'm doing it. I don't care. I'm going full on Team Tulo, the Tulo train. I can't wait till DNVR Rockies can present the 8-part series, the complete history of Troy Tulowitzki. Why everyone needs to understand this whole thing way deeper than we do. We talked about it recently, and whenever it comes up, I feel like it's an easy rant for me to go on to, but just an absolutely fascinating baseball player. And this is just another chapter in his baseball story.
Part 9. Now it's 9 parts. We got to do his post-playing career. We'll have to just keep adding on to it like Ken Burns. He's like, oh, you thought I was done? You thought I was done. Guess what? 10th inning. Oh, yeah, guess what? Later on. I think it's this year. Is it?
How many are we up to?
This October? I think this October they're going to be doing the 11th inning. Yeah, I want to say it's this year, the 11th inning. So covering everything that happened in the 2010s. So we'll get to see his take on the banging scheme, as it's known, the sign stealing fiasco and all that. I think that story hasn't necessarily even been all the way written. I'd be curious to see if he wants to even postpone that as we still kind of figure things out in the foreign
Yeah.
substance conversation, which is now a part of this new decade, a part of the 20s, but has a little bit of carryover from last year. Just this idea that I think that might even, to a certain degree, you know, if we went back and we watched all of Ken Burns' baseball during the pandemic, so go back and watch those. That might have even been April and May. Check those out and re-listen. You can go re-listen and rewatch all of that. That's kind of this evergreen standalone episodes, and each decade had its own theme. And I think for the most part, the 2010s, you know, can be summarized, even though it was back half, can be summarized about gaining an edge, maybe an unfair edge, cheating, bending the rules to the point of, hey, let's kind of reinvent everything. And you kind of see that with the Chicago Cubs. And you know, Theo Epstein kind of admitted it. You know, first you broke the rules in tanking and say, we're not even trying to win. We're trying to lose to get draft picks. We're breaking that rule. And then with analytics going and changing, what's the purpose of the game? To score runs and, you know, to create action and just put a good product on the field. And it's like, no, it's just about not making an out. And if we do swing, if we do choose to swing, we have to hit the ball incredibly hard so that it's a home run and it creates these three true outcomes. And it's about almost the reinvention of the game in a very wrong way.
Yeah.
Right. The game has de-evolved, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the last 5 years of the last decade could very easily be called the de-evolution of baseball. And I think we're in for, you know, we've talked about those market corrections and CBAs and all that stuff because, yeah, it's super bizarre. But going back and thinking about the first half of the decade was interesting too, because you just had me thinking like how long ago some of that stuff feels, right? I was like, so what will be the big stories? And it's going to be things, the Giants and their 3 World Series wins, and you know, the Royals finally overcoming, and some of those things that happened, and that all feels so long ago at this point. It feels like we're in this era now of Cubs, Astros, stealing signs, sticky stuff. The Dodgers finally figured it out, which in a 60-game year, that whole thing. So you're just like, the Nationals was a big fun story too. Maybe he can get into that stuff. But yeah, breaking down this last decade and any kind of structure, those first 5 years, I think you're solid. You've got the Giants and the Royals really overcoming these long droughts and these nice stories of these teams that weren't supposed to win and all that. But after that, the baseball has been this really weird kind of shit show.
And those things were very, very much happening. Like I said, I kind of tied in, you know, the analytics and how much that was driven in the tanking, that new concept, kind of tying that in. But I mean, that's something that Ken Burns is going to do, and I can almost guarantee you that could be very much his take on it. And it's like there's stuff happening that we don't even realize is happening. Like, again, it's scary to say, like, well, what's happening right now that we don't know is going to happen. I mean, we see some of it, and maybe that's a shift too, is that now everything is in front of the camera, right? There's not these behind the scene things anymore. Everything is now in front and center. What we don't know for this decade is what's going to be the impact of, you know, the union, the MLB trying to make the pitchers and hitters rally against each other, the new CBA. What is the impact of that? You know, minor league baseball being trimmed down to, 80% of its size, going from 160 to 120 teams. And, you know, the landscape of baseball, how it's going to change. It's changing now. We just don't know what it's going to look like by the end of the decade too.
And one thing you just reminded me of is the rise of social media, like talking about being in front of the camera, and then the commentary from everybody all the time that really had, you know, in this last decade has become much more of a thing. So very fascinated. We'll see how people feel on social media. We'll wrap this one up real quick, but we do have a few thoughts on the Brewers series upcoming here. Rockies staying out on the road, 6 whole road wins on the year, but coming off of one, the day off in the middle or whatever. A team they played very close at Coors Field. Patrick, how are we feeling about this one?
Hoping they can get one out of it. I don't think it'll be today against Corbin Burns. I don't think the Rockies have hit terribly well against, or rather at Miller Park, just in general. That's just, I think has been one of those, has quietly been one of those areas where they may have struggled a little bit offensively. John Gray also coming back from the IL. You hope he's at 100%, but he's probably not going to be. Again, I don't know this to a T, but again, he doesn't need to be 100%. You go, who'd you rather have? John Gray out there at 85%, kind of as like almost a pseudo rehab start, or Chi-Chi or someone else that you have to call up. No, you go John Gray. And it's for that reason I say, it's probably not going to be their day today, and they will lose Friday's game. Christian Yelich just has very favorable numbers against John Gray. They haven't faced, I think, since 2018, but Yelich has done very well against Gray in the past. For one hit, the line is minus 210. So that's a pretty easy one to take. Tapia minus 265. So they're saying Tapia is more likely to get a hit than Christian Yelich, who has actually good numbers against the opposing pitcher. And I would like for them to maybe take one. Yeah, I would like for them to get all three in theory, but I don't think.
Sure, I think that's what you're looking at. Find a way to win one game. Try not to get blown out in any of them. Hang again if you can with their top pitchers. If you can put a run or two on Corbin Burns at his ballpark, we know they got 4 on him at Coors Field and had a chance for the 5th, but that's a different ball game. You could see him go out. He and Brandon Woodruff went, sinkers and cutters are kind of bullshit here, huh? And by like inning 3, we're like, no more of that. We're just gonna complete. But that's how they find most of their success. And they're gonna have their best pitches back. He's not gonna have to take anything away. So you just try not to get no hit by Corbin Burns.
That's all you got to do. There are long shot odds on Raimel Tapia today to hit a home run. 11-1. It's plus 1,100. Throw $1. Just throw $1 on that.
Throw $1 on there.
That's pretty good. The over/under for strikeouts for Corbin Burns today is 8.5. That is incredibly high.
That seems high for a guy who does. I mean, he gets some strikeouts, but he creates a lot of weak contact. Is more his game. The Rockies have some guys that strike. I haven't looked at the lineup just yet.
It might not be posted there. I think they're still in bed. Again, remember, Drew, it is incredibly early today.
What time is it?
This is the earliest that we've had. And we're hoping that maybe during the All-Star Game weekend of having some early morning podcasts. That's all we'll say about that.
Yeah.
Make sure you're tuning in for all our coverage, as Drew and I will be there. We will not be square. We'll have some huge coverage. Maybe the most interesting line, maybe it's not interesting, but an interesting fact that I found out about this. So Charlie Blackmon's at plus 630, and you go, wow, those are pretty favorable odds for a very talented guy who has some power and has some pop and, struggles from time to time. But you go, Charlie Blackmon, all-star, perennial all-star essentially. He's getting up there in age, but still we saw what he's capable of doing. Mm-hmm. Charlie Blackmon has homered in 25 different ballparks, including Atlanta twice, right? Turner Field, as well as their current confines. Sure. He has never homered in Milwaukee.
No,
is the only National League ballpark in which he is.
I was going to say
homered.
I would have guessed all 5 would have been American League ballparks.
How about that? He has never. Yeah, I think the only ballparks he hasn't homered at in the American League. Well, one of the ballparks is Tampa Bay. He should get an opportunity to do that next year as the NL East is coming around on their schedule. And he also has an opportunity to add Anaheim Stadium or Angel Stadium, where LA plays. They're going out there. I think it's at the end of July. He's never homered there, so that could be ballpark number 26. Maybe Milwaukee's 27. Texas, the new Globe Life Field, he hasn't homered in. He's homered in Globe Life Park.
Okay.
So that could be 28.
Okay. That one's too new. I don't want to count that one against him yet.
No. I was certainly, I'm not counting. I wouldn't necessarily count LA against him.
You're just giving us. No, I got you. But I'm just saying, yeah.
But he could have 29 by the end of next season.
Next year. I mean, he's got
But none in Milwaukee? Can you believe that?
That's truly bizarre.
That's trippy.
That is, yeah. That reminds me of some Todd Helton Miami stuff. That just
93 plate appearances, Drew.
And he's never hit a homer in Milwaukee.
You've had one. Here's his slash line in Milwaukee. I hope you're sitting down.
No.
153,
Eesh.
217,
Oof.
even worse, slugging 188. He has three doubles. That's it. Three doubles in 93 plate appearances.
And don't forget that ball that he hit in game 1 of the NLDS that I still think was a fair ball that should have been an RBI double that could have won the Rockies the ball game. All depends on if Ottavino takes a different approach against who got that hit? Moustakas? Shoot, now I've blanked on it. Well, anyway.
Miller Park, I think, is the only ballpark that he has more games played than total bases. That is the most. That is the only one that I can see. Turner Field, rest in peace. 21 games played, 23 total bases. He batted 246 there, just only one homer, so just didn't get a lot of bases. But he has more total bases than games played. Whereas 20 at Miller Park, he only has 16 total bases. You have to go all the way down to Tropicana, Globe Life Field, and Comerica Park, where he has 3 games in Tampa, 1 base. So a crazy small sample size. That is it. Who cares about that? 3 games last year in Texas in the new stadium, 1 base. In Comerica, 2 games, 1 base. I don't even know when that would have been.
I was gonna say I can't recall them having played in Comerica, but yeah, that is
that's crazy. That is more games played than total bases for Charlie Blackmon. Miller Park. Let's see. He's got to be, right?
Put a unit on him to hit a yonker or at least get a base hit or something.
He's got to. The law of averages says he's got to have a good weekend, and DraftKings right now is saying, no, he's dog crap. Okay, that's fine. He's just going to be at least good. Cash in on that.
Right. That is that legitimately blows my mind. I wonder if there's any reason why that would even be the case.
Hitter's eye thing? Well, I'll have to ask him when he comes back. When he comes back home. Yeah.
Because how truly bizarre. That's just the team they happen to play in the 2018 NLDS.
I mean, could it be all those great Milwaukee Brewers pitchers he's faced in the last decade, such as
Yovani Gallardo?
Ben Sheets?
Remember when Gallardo was their ace for like 6 straight years?
He was legit good. But again,
he was good, but he was
in a 3-game series, you face that guy once.
Yeah.
It doesn't explain. That does not explain this.
Oh my God.
Maybe he was just, facing John Axford a lot, late in ball games.
It was always Axford. Did they have a string of tough lefties? No. Josh Hader's only been a thing for the last couple of years, and he only pitches late in games.
Dan Plesac. Dan Plesac comes in every game for the Brewers.
It's Dan Plesac.
There's a name.
Oh, love it. Big MLB The Show guy. He does. He's one of the commentary people on MLB The Show. Drives me nuts, but I love Dan Plesac.
Great head of hair.
Great head of hair. All right, everyone. So go out and watch the baseball game. See what happens. Put your money down on we got it. Blackman's got to do some stuff. I think Tapia gets his hit streak going again. I don't know what the numbers are on Trevor's story, but I do think he's hot for real now. I think we're going to see some superstar Trevor for a couple of weeks. So I'd ride that one for a little while. Like Patrick said, I'd be careful of John Gray in this first game back after that. Start riding him on strikeouts and stuff like that again. Depending on how this start goes, obviously. We'll pay attention to that. So keep watching the ball games with us. Keep hanging out for the daily conversations here on the YouTube channel. You can participate in them by subscribing to our DNVR YouTube channel. Clicking the like and subscribe buttons. Make sure you know whenever we go live so that you can take part in it. Do subscribe to the DNVR.com for all the written content, the Discord access, the shirt, the holistic stick, all the stuff we're always telling you about. And, of course, hang out with us on social media at Drew Creasman, at Patrick D. Lyons, at DNVR_Rockies. We appreciate each and every one of you for continuing to be absolutely awesome baseball fans out there. We promise to keep being absolutely Patrick Lyons and Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.